Ready, mode, go.
Ready? Hey, what is up? Welcome, fellow hustlers, to Hustle Beach, the coolest podcast that happens every Tuesday, at least in the year 2020. My name is Kosha Dills, and I am the host of Hustle Beach, and we are here in Park City, Utah, which is the basically the most expensive park that I've been to recently. And really, we are into expensive things here, but also figuring out how it becomes expensive. And I am here with the one and only Nick Morton of Whitewater Films. Give it up for Nick Morton, everybody. Woo! Word. Wow, man. How many Sundances have you been to?
I keep saying this is my 25th, but that can't really be right. I was sent here for the first time when I was maybe 24, and I was working for Mike Medavoy, who was one of the founding members of the Sundance Institute. He had been Woody Allen's agent and Milos Forman's agent, Steven Spielberg's agent, and
he sent you here.
Yeah, so I was his assistant, and he had been raising some money to start an independent studio. And he had recently closed on the financing, and he was. I think I'd either been promoted or I was about to get promoted. I think I was still working on his desk as his assistant, but he was basically like, "Yeah, we need to send somebody to Sundance," and so he sent me, and I didn't know I barely knew what a movie was. And I was so in. I was I still feel the same. I still feel like this 12-year-old kid stumbling around here. Where am I supposed to be? So that was my first Sundance. I think it was it must have been 1996. And I haven't come every year since then. I took a couple of years off when I was really working in the studio system. I mean, Medavoy sent us here because we were a very filmmaker driven company. So the idea was you come and, identify the crop of filmmakers that we want to get in business with. And then the next company I worked for after I left Phoenix Pictures, I went to work for Phil Anschutz at Crusader Entertainment. And it was much less filmmaker driven. It was more, the company didn't make a lot of sense. And it was not terribly professional and whatever. It was often, Phil's agenda or the project's agenda, but it wasn't the same idea at Phoenix where it was let's find the best filmmakers, let's support them the best we know how, and let's let them make the movies. It was something different. And so I stopped coming here, and then it became clear to me that job was going to end. I started coming back because I was just here to network, and I've been back here pretty much ever since. So I didn't come last year, but I started working at Whitewater in 2009. And so I've been here every year since.
When you're working in movies, have you done stuff with cameras before? Or you were just I'm going to work in movies? When you were younger, you were growing up, you're I'm going to work in movies, Mom. You can't stop me.
No, I was, my main hobby growing up was drugs and alcohol. It was the only thing I really liked. I was good at it. People liked me when I was high.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Long Island, in Locust Valley, which is a very sort of affluent community, very sort of cocktail party, golf and tennis, country club kind of life.
Golf and tennis, I got it.
I went to boarding school. I drank a hole in my stomach when I was in boarding school. I shouldn't be talking about drugs and alcohol here so much. But
no, it's okay, man.
I was just in that mode. And then I was at Georgetown, really. And I was on my way to become an investment banker because that's what everyone I knew did.
It does in D.C., yeah.
And I was, I was really scared to do it. I thought I was going to kill myself if I became an investment banker. And I took a course from this guy named John Glavin, who's actually become kind of famous for redirecting people towards Hollywood. There was an article in the Washington Post on him recently, and some of the people he sent to Hollywood were John Mulaney and Mike Birbiglia, and
he's sending all the finance people to Hollywood.
I think now he has a sort of a following where people who are artistically inclined go seek Glavin out, and he helps them figure out how to find their voice and get themselves on a trajectory towards a creative life
versus the 9 to 5 or 9 to 7
going to law school or whatever. I took his course. It was called Writing for the Screen. I didn't know anything about movies, but at the end of it, he had an agent come in to ostensibly tell us how to sell our screenplays in Hollywood. And someone asked him how he became an agent, And he was like, I was on my way to Wall Street. I wasn't excited about it. I had a friend living in Hollywood. I went out there. I slept on their couch. I got a job working at one of the agencies. And, you know, I've been there ever since. And I was like, I could do that. Like, I didn't know anything about movies, but I was like,
I could sleep on someone's couch.
I have a friend in Hollywood. Like, I could, like, why not? Like, I've lived in this affluent community. I've seen that, like, making money doesn't do it. Like, it's not enough for those, like, all those people have tons of money and they're no happier than anyone else. So why chase that? Like, I've seen where it ends. So, I mean, dumbest decision of my life.
You're like, and here we are.
So, so I did what that guy did. I came out to Hollywood and I slept on my friend's couch. I got a job working at William Morris in their independent film division, working for Cassian Elwes, who's sort of like I was working for Rick Hess under Cassian Elwes, who was sort of a Sundance legend.
I love how you're saying all these names because someone's gonna look all of them up.
Yeah,
Me,
they
I'm
should.
Like, who
they totally
who
should.
are these people?
And
Rick Hess.
Rick Hess, Cassian Elwes, and from there I went to. The funny thing was working at William Morris, I became like I was a terrible assistant, but I had an amazing memory.
Yeah.
So, I could do the job, and by the time I was done, after a year of that, I was like, no matter what happens to me, I can always fall back on my like secretarial skills because I'm a good assistant. So I quit that job, and I just sort of, I was like, I'm going to wait until someone really powerful comes along who needs an assistant, and I'm going to go, and I'm going to sacrifice everything for that person. I'm going to make them indebted to me in a way that they will have no choice but to promote me.
Right. Wow.
And I waited until that came along. That happened to be Mike Medavoy. And he did not make me work so hard that he owed me. But I worked really hard, and he saw that I was like, I would do anything to sort of advance my career. And he rewarded that with a promotion to like the junior executive there. And, I stayed there until pretty much everyone above me had quit. And I had my boss's desk. And I remember Medavoy asking me, he would turn 4 times a year. He would turn to the head of production, just a big fucking fancy job in Hollywood. He'd be head of production, and say, "What are my next 4 movies? I want to plan on my desk by the end of tomorrow for what my next 4 movies are and how you're going to make them."
He asked you that,
and he turned to me, and I was like, "What? I'm not the head of production.
I'm the assistant."
I mean, I had been promoted, I had some like fancy title at that point, but I was still making like $32,000 a year. So, but I was like, wow, this is a cool opportunity. And I remember sitting down and spending, I gathered the team, and the team's like, why the fuck are we meeting in Europe? Like, why are you the boss now? Like, it's just like the whole thing didn't make any sense.
Right.
And I come up with this plan for making my next 4 movies. And I had Rick Hess's desk then now moved into my office, and he had left maybe 18 months before. And my movies were, I remember one was Resurrecting the Champ. I can't remember what the other, maybe with a sequel to Urban I can't remember what the other 3 movies were. But I felt pretty confident I'd get them made. And then I pull open his, like, this thing that you put your keyboard on. And he had pasted his next 4 movies that he had made that list 2 years before. And they were the same 4 titles. and they hadn't gotten made that time. Right. And I was like, I'm fucked. Right. So, like, I was like, he couldn't make these. What makes me think I'm going to be able to make these? And so I went into Mike's office.
And this is like with already having the scripts and stuff
like that? Yeah, we got the scripts, and we
spent
spent a lot of money on the scripts.
It wasn't like, you're like, I need 4 movie
names. No, we've got these
whatever,
things. And, you got, whatever, you have 35 projects in development. And, you're hoping you're going to make them all. But we were thinking, like, what of these 35, like, what's likely on the runway? Like, which script has a good director? What do we think we can cast? Do we have enough money to make these things? All those kinds of things.
Right.
And so I went into his office, and I was like, I really appreciate this opportunity, but, like, nobody does this job for $32,000 a year. And he was like, I am giving you the opportunity of a lifetime. Like, you could take this company and do what you want with it. But, which was really great, and I'll always be thankful for that. The people that I was working with, I mean, were frankly better at the job than I was, and they all were going to want whatever I had, and I was like, they're going to destroy me. So I got out. I took another job pretty quickly, and that was, who knows if it's the right choice or not. But I went to work for Phil Anschutz, sort of running development for him. I did that for a couple of years, and then...
So you go to work every day, like, just the hustle of, like, production is, like, go to work every day, and you're like, I got to develop this thing.
Yeah, I mean, the hustle is like, how do I find a story that I think I can turn into a movie? Like, how do I take this story that I started developing 6 months ago, and how do I get it to the next step? And, like, how do I get it, and then once I've got a script that I'm happy with, how do I get a director involved? Once I have a director involved, like, how do I find, like, enough credible financing that I can then go to cast? And then, and you're always just sort of, like, trying to assemble these puzzle pieces.
You have an idea, and then you get your script writer, and then, like, so what's the process? Let's say you're like, I want to make the movie about, the mountains of Park City and some, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, they're all kind of different. I mean, we were going to talk about Fat Kid Rules the World, and maybe I'll use that as, like, a case study, because that was my first, like, real produced by credit, and I made it at Whitewater Films, which is, like, a company where we do something different. I'd kind of left Phoenix, and the Hollywood had changed dramatically in the time. Like, the kinds of movies that I was making weren't really getting made in a regular sort of business way at that point. Movies for grown-ups made by sophisticated filmmakers. I mean, more of those movies are getting made now, but there was definitely a period after the financial crisis and the Writers Guild strike where, like, the digitization of Hollywood and the end of the DVD revenue stream really changed everything. And it no longer made sense to make a Milos Forman movie for $60 million. I mean, it still doesn't. You look at The Irishman, like, everyone passed on it. The only person who could afford to make it was Netflix, where the financial model of making that movie made sense to them. No other studio. It didn't make sense to any other studio. So, right.
So I started working at Whitewater, where we basically make micro-budget films for essentially under $2 million, where we're working largely with first-time filmmakers. And, using crews that are kind of in training.
It's so crazy, though, that it's like those are micro budgets, because for music, if you like, it's like, the home run if you land like $50,000 or
right.
$100,000. I mean, like, oh my gosh.
When I was at Phoenix Pictures, we would spend $1 million buying the script. We would spend $1 million hiring a writer to rewrite the $1 million script that we bought. So, like, sometimes when I first started Whitewater,
you can't get your homie to do it for like $50,000.
Yeah. We'd be making these movies, and I'd be like
crazy.
So anxious. Like, are we gonna tomorrow? What does our day cost on this film? It's $15,000. I mean, it's like the entire budget of the movie was less money than I would spend like just hiring a writer. The upside as a creative person is that you're actually like so much more involved in the process. Like, when you're on set of an independent, for me, going from an everyone's got different experiences, but for me, going from like an executive suite to actually like being on set and being like, how are we going to make this day? What are we going to have to cut in the script to make this day? Or like, the craft service, but this really happened on the first day of Fat Kid Rules the World. The craft service person got arrested for a DUI and never showed up. And so I was crafty, and I was like, it was like, what's the...
what an amazing... Where is he? He's in jail.
Yeah, but she's not coming, so like... Nick, quick fire challenge. What can you make for 60 hungry people that is vegetarian and filling? I'm like, I'm gonna go.
You're like Grubhub.
Yeah, so running down to like the Costco to get enough food to cook something up for people. But so like Fat Kid Rules the World. Let's say that movie was a book that a woman named Cale Going wrote. It's about like a kid who's morbidly obese, and he's really depressed, and he's going to kill himself, and his suicide attempt gets interrupted by this kind of grifter punk rock kid, and they form like an unlikely friendship where the grifter punk rock kid is sponging off the fat kid for housing and food and perpetuating this illusion that they're going to create a punk rock band together. And the magic of the movie is that they actually become friends in this grift, and they actually do start this punk rock band, and the sort of punk rock band saves both their lives. And it's really sweet and inspiring. And Matthew Lillard had been hired to read the book for like an Audible recording, basically.
What a gig.
And he fell in love with the book. And so he tracked down I can't remember the whole process, but eventually there was a script, and there's a young producer named Ryan Lewis who I had met at a like networking event. And he was like, I've got this project called Fat Kid Rules the World. Would you read it? He harassed me a lot, and I eventually read it. And I was like, this is interesting.
Is it difficult? Is it interesting? Like, because I have friends who write scripts, and they're like, we're going to need to get, someone once asked me, he's like, I need to get RZA to read this thing because I wrote you and this, and I wrote you into the script. And, you know, how difficult is it, like someone sends you a script to read? How many scripts do you get a week, if like in an email? Could you read this?
Oh, I mean, so many. Okay. But I mean, I really ignore
like
them.
MP3s for DJs.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I ignore them all. Like, I don't respond.
Unless you maybe know the person.
Moon, yeah, I mean, certainly, like, I'm out there looking for stuff constantly and looking for, you know, talented writers that I want to be in business with and filmmakers I want to be in business with. And so agents and producers and, you know, other creative friends are sending me stuff, and I look at all that stuff. But
do people also, like, do people have your email like on a list, and they're like,
yeah,
hey, for $67 you could send it to everybody. You're like, hey, you know what, I found you on this little thing over here.
I'm on some annoying list where like it's like, dear Nick, I got your name from Screen Hollywood list, whatever it is, and I'm like,
you're like, I know you give no fucks about me, but but how long does it take to read a script?
I mean, I'm a slow reader, but you know, I would say it takes me like an hour to read a script.
Okay.
So.
Do people offer you money to like read their script, like under the table? I'm just asking because rap style, you're like, yo, man, like,
they don't.
Post me for 100?
But you know, I there is a point where, you know, I used to feel like it was really like that I had an obligation as a professional to read stuff, and there is a point where you're like, you know what, I've given you a lot of my time, a lot of my professional consideration, and I'm done. And like, I'm just not reading another draft of your script. I don't care. You know, you know, I think that's my right. And like, if you, there should be compensation for it on some level. Like, people should be soliciting, you know, especially like, you know, sometimes people will call me and they'll be like, hey, I've got this friend and he wrote a script. I haven't read it, but would you read it? And I'm like, no. Like, I'm not going to read your friend's script that you haven't even read. Like,
yeah, like, sell me on a little bit better, bud. You know, well, you know, they have this thing called Submit Hub for like blogs. For music blogs, and it's like record labels and this, and it's basically like you buy credits, like 100 credits for like $80, and you submit it, and the person's like listening to your song, which takes about 4 minutes. They're like, they give them $1. You know what I mean? Because you got to listen to music all day to write about it for your blog. It doesn't make any money. You know what I'm saying? It's like, at least buy some people some like cups of coffee. So yeah, it would be cool if there was something like.
I mean, there are, you know, and
like
there are
for $25 submit it, and you're like, hey, and you get
there
it.
There are services like that, and I just feel like my, you know, and this is not accurate, but I feel like my time is more valuable.
You're
like,
right, of course.
I should spend, like, you know, and probably if you did the math, it's not true, but like, I'm better use of my time than reading scripts that are never going to get made for whatever, $50. I should be spending that creative capital on my own stuff, whether that's forming relationships with other artists or just creating the stuff that I'm creating.
Cool.
In my own life. So
let's go back to the Fat Kid.
So I read the script, and I know that Matthew Lillard wants to direct it. And I like Matthew as an actor. I've met with him before. I think he's really funny and talented. So I'm not really sure about the project. I think the script is really good, but Ryan wisely says, well, why don't you meet with Matthew? And I'm like, yeah, I'd love to meet with Matthew. So Matthew comes in, and he's totally charming and delightful and a great salesman, and he is really compelling, and he has a plan in place. One of the things that really helped convince us to do the movie was he was like, even if the movie comes out flawed and nobody wants to buy it, I have this idea where I can do a partnership with Vans Warped Tour. Who's the founder of that?
Kevin Lyman.
Kevin
Lyman.
Kevin Lyman. He's like, we can meet with Kevin, and Kevin will hook us up with the Vans Warped Tour. And this, you know, this is a punk rock movie. It appeals directly to the demographic that Kevin is promoting his show thing to. So it's like a built-in marketing thing. And it's rare that filmmakers bring you something like that where they've actually figured out how to sell the thing. Like usually they're like, I've got this great thing I want to do. So
I don't know what to do.
To me, the appeal was the script really worked. I really liked Matthew. That was like a bet that I was excited about. And he had this sort of downside protection built into the project. I introduced him to my boss. They really got along. We decided that we would make a short film together first. And so we went up to Seattle and we did this, like, we call this Whitewater Boot Camp, where we actually work with the filmmakers for 2 or 3 days, shoot a couple scenes, cut it together, and get a sense of how we all work together, where our strengths and weaknesses are. And
I want to go to boot camp. No exercising or anything. It's just all
it's
coffee,
just
cigarettes, and film.
And, develop some trust. And that was a really successful process. So then we made the movie. It was really fun, very fulfilling experience. And
Do you take all your filmmakers to boot camp?
No, I mean, we do some version of it. Like there is a sort of a dating process, at least for our company, where we have to develop some sort of relationship with the filmmaker before we commit to funding the project. And we like the idea that it's boot camp, but sometimes it's different things. We just made a movie called Boy Behind the Door, and with the filmmakers, we got delayed for casting reasons. We were going to go make the movie without doing any kind of boot camp. But then we were like, during the rehearsal process, we were having trouble the audition process, we were having trouble finding actors, and the director's a directing team, and they went to, they actually decided to go to take some acting classes. And so the auditioning process became this weird kind of boot camp. And then in the process, we also suggested that they maybe shoot some scenes with some child actors so that they get a sense of what it's like to work with kids.
Right.
And they ended up making, during this production delay, they made a feature with one of the kids who ultimately became one of the co-leads in the film. And we had nothing to do with that, but that whole process was a way of us sort of understanding each other's creative process. And then we were able to see the footage that they shot during the hiatus. So we did that with Matthew. We made the movie. We submitted the movie to Sundance. It didn't get in. It got into South by Southwest.
Rock and roll, baby.
We went down to South by. It felt like a good fit for the movie also because it's music oriented. And, we had South by Southwest was great. I mean, the movie was really well received. We did all kinds of like fun promotional things. And we had like these Converse provided us with some special Factory Rules of the World sneakers that we handed out at screenings. And it was really a fun great experience.
When you go down with the film to South by Southwest, because I go down with music,
right.
And this is just really interesting. How much is a film spending on promo when they're going down to South by, you think?
I mean, you're spending as little money as you can because it depends. So it depends on the film. For us, we're there with a movie that we've already invested a lot of money in, and we're trying to recoup our money by premiering at South by and hopefully selling the film.
Right.
So the only thing we're really spending money on is travel and lodging for the cast and for publicity. And hiring a publicist is like $10,000.
$10,000. So you're spending $20,000, $30,000.
Probably $20,000.
Yeah.
And
it's a party. Just in relation, a lot of people are going down with music and getting a place to stay, and then like just going and pressing up flyers, and it's maybe $2,000. So
right.
It's a different ballgame, different.
Yeah, I mean, you can do it for less. There are, but I mean, that's I think a realistic $25,000 is probably a realistic budget.
And you guys postered up the whole town. And
we hired a poster guy. There's this guy down there. I don't know if he's still there, like the roller boy, and he's on roller skates, and he roller skates around and puts your posters up.
That's amazing.
And then there was a lot of interest in the film. And at the end of the day, we had maybe 3 or 4 offers, and they were all they weren't enough. None of them made any sense to us. Like we weren't going to recoup, and to accept any of those offers was to accept that the movie was going to be a loss and would be exposed to a limited audience. So we decided to distribute it ourselves.
DIY.
Yeah. And we made a deal with Arc Entertainment and a foreign sales company. And then we did a Kickstarter campaign. And we put together, a page and a bunch of really fun promotional opportunities. We had Mike McCready from Pearl Jam had created the score, and we had some signed guitars that we were selling, and some development opportunities. And Matthew Lillard went on. He did like a Reddit AMA where we raised a lot of money, and over the course of the 30-day Kickstarter, we raised $160,000.
Amazing.
And then we activated that proposed partnership with Kevin Lyman on the Vans Warped Tour, and we were on tour at the same time you were.
Yeah. That's when I found out about this film. And every day the tent was up and kids coming and finding out. And
so we did like the idea that we had, so there was also there was a theatrical platform called Tug where you could book a theater basically in advance, say, I want to host a screening of Fat Kid Rules the World on February 15th in Park City. And you could book the holiday cinema through this website, and then you would have a local person here who is your promoter, and they would run around and try to get like all their friends in high school to buy tickets. And if you could sell out, say, 45% of the theater, the screening would go live. So our idea was to pre-book a bunch of theaters along the path of the Vans Warped Tour, give some tickets away, find promoters in each city, and the promoter makes a little bit of money from they get a cut of the revenue, and orchestrate this rollout along the Vans Warped Tour using Tug, and it was ambitious, and it didn't work ultimately.
No, because Vans Warped Tour is such a beast, it's like impossible to do. You have to you're on a bus and you're waking up at 7 and setting up and.
Yeah, I mean, I think what would have worked better, and we contemplated it and ultimately didn't decide to do it, but was to do a day and date where the movie, or really just like fuck the theatrical. I mean, like this was a while ago. This was back in 2012, and people still believed that theatrical distribution, being in a movie theater on a big screen was the most important thing. And I think if we had just accepted that digital downloads were really going to be our revenue stream, then we could have just handed out discount cards on the Vans Warped Tour or free download cards, whatever it was. And actually, it was something they could activate that night when they went home, or the next day, as opposed to being like,
these kids
I got to put together this screening. Like, no, I mean, I can barely.
To be honest, the Warped Tour kid, demographic is like a lot of lonely, sad kids that stay home.
Yeah.
They're
Totally.
Going out to the movies with friends. But
so, I mean, we tried it, and it was for me, it was really interesting because I suddenly had this marketing budget of $160,000. I had to figure out how am I going to actually spend that? And when I was an executive at the companies I'd been at before, that was somebody else's job. I didn't know what that was about. Right. So here I am, at some point, when you're doing those executive jobs, someone comes in with a presentation and you say, oh, I like that poster. I don't like that. Let's do this. Here it is. I'm sitting at my desk at midnight QCing the artwork that's going to ultimately be blown up to wrap an 18-wheeler, and trying to figure out what how big the graphics have to be, and how what
it's crazy
resolution that shit has to be,
right.
and
you got 160 racks to go do sponsor. So you got the tour, and that's
so we did the tour, but then we also had to we had to pay DC, so then we had to pay for all the swag that we handed out on the tour.
Were you selling anything?
No, we were just giving shit away. We were just giving away T-shirts and tattoos, and we had iPads to sign people emails. So I still have 10,000 emails from that.
Really? That's valuable.
Right? Yeah.
From Warped Tour? I'd want it.
Of course, those kids are all they're all probably parents now. 7 years ago.
No.
But then we also had to, so then I think we followed that with a traditional theatrical release where we were booking theaters. So every time you book a theater, you have to buy advertising in the local newspaper back then. So we did some of that.
And it's so crazy. It's how much does each local booking of a movie theater cost? It's $2,000.
Well, it's it's probably $3,000 because you're paying to make the DCP.
And you're hoping to flip it $6,000, sell it out or something.
Yeah, you're hoping you're going to do, $10,000.
Oh my God.
But, and, you hope you'll build. I mean, you hope that you'll do 25 grand, and that, like, the next weekend you'll do 175,000.
Yeah, multiple showings, not just one showing.
Yeah, multiple showings.
So,
okay.
So it's okay if there's 70 people here and 60 people here.
Yeah, we did a run in New York that was 6 days, and a run in Hollywood that was 6 days, and, you're doing 4 showings a day. So, but still, none of it worked. I mean, the bottom line is, like, it was just... Whatever reason, I think it's just hard to penetrate. You've got.
But let's say later, 8 years later, somebody wants that movie in like Japan and they want to buy it and like we want this film. Like you sell it again and like license it.
Well,
to
we
them,
did. We made a licensing deal with Arc Entertainment. They ultimately went bankrupt, and the movie just reverted to us in November. So we're trying to figure out like what are we going to do with those rights.
Kevin Lyman was just here in Sundance.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, and he was speaking on a panel about mental health. And, that was my first Warped Tour. And then in 2015, he booked me. And it was like me, Riff Raff, Mod Sun. I mean, we were like, all the character rappers. And there's, the best thing about Warped Tour is that it was like you set up this tent and then it's like a shop. And then you just sell stuff. And I just wish you guys were... If I was the guy, I would have been like, dude, like sell the T-shirts and the DVDs and just have some DVD. And you're like, yeah, we're selling these movies.
That's what we should have done.
And we would have sold 2,000 of them in the summer.
Right.
We would sell, 30 a day or 50 a day and just hammer them $5 DVDs.
What we should have done was hired you to work that fucking tent.
Yeah.
That's the key. Whoever you have in that tent. Yeah. And I don't know who that was. I certainly wasn't going to go do it.
And they're like, man, I love life on the road.
Yeah.
And you're like, we're just here with this movie. And those things are awesome. When you see them on Warped Tour, you're like, but, Warped Tour is such a, a selling thing. People know it was, like I said, I did Warped Tour 2012. That was the year I got the Super Bowl commercial. And I was like, we got to do Warped Tour and just get a little tent. And even if you're playing on the ground level stages, there's 10,000 people and they're all there to spend money. They got $50 from their parents.
Yeah, totally.
And your job is to attack them until they give you the money.
I went out because the thing came through Southern California, so I went out a couple times, and then we did a couple screenings on the tour as well to try to like create a sense amongst the like backstage screenings for like. Did you go to one of those? I
didn't see it. No.
It was like really the idea was like to get all these bands that are on tour to see the movie and then like tweet about it.
I think it could work if you did something again like similar and you even did a more low budget and it was on a tour like that totally. And you're like, listen, this is what we're doing, and it's just. But it's just another level of finance to really promote a movie different than a band, to go see a band, and it's just cool that you did it like to be on Van's Warped Tour, which even had its own television show. They did Warped Road. Have you heard about that?
No, but the year that we went, the opening, they had like an opening, they had like a party for the sponsors to sort of like lay out like this is the shit you need to do, and I this is when we leave, and this is how much sort of a prep meeting that I went to, thinking, God, if I was younger, I'd love to fucking go on this tour, like sleep in that berth and just like wake up every day and set up my booth and like. But I had 2 kids by then. But it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, you're staying home.
But and at the end of that party, they showed a documentary that they had made about the Vans Warped Tour, which was really cool. I mean, it gave me a really good sense of like what the tour was like, and it followed 3 different musicians during the course of the summer and sort of what happened to them, and it was cool. I can't remember who the musicians were. One was like a death metal guy, and then there was sort of like an emo person, and I don't know, but I mean, it wasn't perfect, and it didn't totally work, but it was exciting to try it, and it was exciting to just like, find that money ourselves and then deploy it in a way that made sense, and we took risks, and the risks didn't necessarily pay off, but we learned a lot along the way. And as you say, I mean, looking back on it, I think there is a version of it that could succeed. It just wasn't for that film.
Bummer. But you still got it.
That's
cool. Make money for the rest of your life from it.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we'll find a way to monetize that film down the line.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's like you could always think of a way to keep doing it, I guess. But so now what's the next hustle for you?
I mean, I'm developing a lot of television right now. I just made this like little web pilot with Ray Seahorn that's going to premiere shortly, and that I wrote. And
wow, so when you write, like, how much time do you spend on it?
It just depends.
Because I'm just wondering I really don't know much about it. I don't think a lot of people do, but like, what's the entry level? Like, what's the barrier? If like, hey, I want to write a TV show and I want to kind of pitch it and I want to see it, and someone does write it and learns how to write by themselves and takes it, and then what's like the full length of?
It's tricky. That? It's really tricky because, I'm pretty well connected. I've been in Hollywood for a long time, and like I struggle to get people to read my shit. I'm humiliated every day by the rejection of it. I'm embarrassed. It's like I feel like every time I show someone a script and they reject it, they're like literally laughing at my dick. You know? I'm like standing naked and they're like, yep.
Yeah, look at you.
Look at you. Look at you. You're going to show us that? Like you're proud of it?
Yeah. Oh my God, that's amazing. It's really crazy that you've been doing it for so long. And I remember meeting you the other day, and just premise, we just met the other day. We're at Sundance Film Festival, and I'm doing music, and I'm always like dreaming. Wherever I have like a short doc that has been made on me,
right?
And I did like a 90-day street performance, which turned into meeting this guy who buys and sells some films, and for Netflix and all these. I don't know the exact terminology, but I know he's at Sundance every year, and he's going to all the same parties you go to, and he like actually works in this industry, because there's a lot of people that are like, we should do something,
right?
And he submitted it. We made it a final round of South by, and we got rejected, even though I've been accepted now about 12 times to South by,
right?
And then you have, I have a long doc that I've been doing, and it has every celebrity in it, from Macaulay Culkin to Mike Tyson to RZA to Dave Bautista. I'm giving Dave Bautista bar mitzvah, like things that are really obscure and weird and should, have all the star power. But it's like you've completed it and you're like, and you still feel the way, because I feel the same way about rap music also. I'm like, well, I've been rapping forever and I still, people still laugh.
I feel like it is a, like you gotta like what you're doing to begin with, because like that's a lot of it. Like you can't expect that you're going to find some sort of peace or satisfaction that you're gonna like. Like I've had so many great things happen to me, and then it's like the next day I'm still me. Yeah. And but I think so. Like, to people who like want to break into the business, I think the thing that is different now than it's ever been before is that you can just make shit. You can make funny shit. Like, I'm a comedian, so like making comedic shit is so easy. Like it doesn't need to be beautiful. It doesn't need, you just need an iPhone, and like you can make something funny. And so I think like, if you're a writer and you're trying to get into the business, I would just write something short that you can make and
make someone laugh
for very little money. Not even that. Make someone feel something. Make them laugh. Make them scared. Make them illuminate them. I think like certainly like documentary short is. Obviously you've been a subject of documentary shorts. That's a great compelling way to to tell a story and show a part of the world, and you don't need actors to do it. You actually are shooting real people, so that makes it a little bit easier. You look at like Quibi, which is Jeffrey Katzenberg's new company, where they're spending billions of dollars making short content.
Quibi, Q-U-I-B-B-Y?
Q-U-I-B-I. And they're making shows that you can only watch on your phone. Their Quick Bites is what Quibi stands for, and it's like 8 to 10 minute episodes. So like they've got everything from like a queer game show to a horror anthology to a cooking show. So I don't know. That to me is my advice.
I want a show on Quibi.
Is
Jeff,
create something that people can be like, oh wow, these guys can create stuff, like, and collaborate with people. I think like one thing I've learned in comedy is that like being in the fray with other people, you form relationships with. You look at people with like real sustainable careers in Hollywood, and so many of them just work with the same people again and again,
over
and
they
over. Feed off each other, and
same hustle, same people.
It's like find collaborators that you like, that you enjoy spending time with.
Right, because you're going to be spending a lot of time.
Because you're spending a lot of time with them, so that you like are enjoying the process, and then do shit. Just keep doing shit, And I feel like, then once you get a little bit of momentum, people can then look back and they say, "Oh wow, there's actually a body of work here that speaks to this person's competence." So
you gotta just get something short. Boom, keep creating.
Yep.
Are you going to make some short stuff this year or only big movies?
I'm going to make some short stuff, definitely. I'm going to do some more episodes of this web series that's coming out. And I make shit in my living room with, like, my kids.
Right. And also you have the podcast Drunkalogs.
I have the podcast. I make that. It's really nice to have something that I put out regularly. That
but if someone's like, let's make a little show for Drunkalogs for Quibi or something.
Yeah, I mean, God, please. Again, Jeffrey, you can call me. Or Rami, it doesn't matter. We'll hook you up.
I would be thrilled to see Drunkalogs. I mean, they do have the drunk history, so I think they
should.
Yeah. So you gotta.
This is the more earnest version.
Yeah, but I mean, the story's a little bit more green though too. So you have some good stories on there, including mine, which is coming in. I'm really excited about it. Well, listen, dude. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me. It's really fun.
This is Hustle Beach. This is every Tuesday, and this is our Sundance edition, which I sat down, guys, with someone who actually works in Hollywood, not a rapper who flosses money and says, "Yo, I'm here." So it's a little bit different for some of my listeners, and it's cool that you really were able to incorporate just, I don't know, telling a story of a film that was actually like a DIY film, and I saw it come to fruition and see how the process is, and you're in South by Southwest, and now you still have it, and crazy, who knows, in 10 years something might happen. It might be some thing about a diary about a fat kid, and to refer back to the movie and pop culture, and streaming will be even different. Yeah. Well, listen, can you shout out any of your stuff that you're on that you want people to follow you?
Oh yeah, I'm on Twitter and Instagram. I'm Mortonopolis.
Mortonopolis. And Drunkalogs.
Mortonopolis, it's a place you can go.
Okay. and you are on Drunkalogs for the podcast?
Yes, I host the Drunkalogs it's available wherever.
And it comes out all the time, or you just upload?
I mean, it comes out every 2 weeks, essentially.
Cool.
So.
All right. Yeah. Scotia Dills here, Hustle Beach, and it's been a pleasure.
That's awesome.
And we're going to sign out. Later.